Hello everyone, and welcome to our deep flexibility yoga class for today. When you are ready, join me in the center of your mat in seated easy pose. This could be cross-legged or kneeling or whatever feels good for you. Once you meet me here, take your spine nice and tall, gaze is up. Lift the crown of the head up, open through the chest, and then when you're ready, inhale and lift the arms to the sky, palms together. Hold here for a breath. Then exhale, take your left hand down to the mat and reach the right arm overhead. Hold here for a few breaths, taking deep inhales through the nose and exhales through the mouth. To gain some extra mobility, begin to take a few circles with that right arm, that top arm. Make these nice and big, gaining mobility in the shoulder and upper back, while stretching out the armpit and the side body. Just one more. And then when you're ready, come back up to center. Inhale, take both arms up to the sky. Nice big stretch in the chest. Then exhale, stretch over to the right side. Left arm this time is overhead. Hold for a few breaths here. Gaze is up to the sky, stretching through that left side body. And then when you're ready, let's take those arm circles. Let's do 5 for 1, nice and slow. For 2, for 3, for 4, and one last one. Really open up through the shoulder. Take it nice and slow. Hold back in our side stretch for a moment. Then inhale and return back to center, both arms up. Then exhale, release them down to the mat. Begin to make your way into a kneeling position at the base of your mat. Once you meet me here and you're nice and comfortable with your hips on your heels, begin to slide your hands forward and melt your forehead and your chest down to the mat, coming into our child pose. Take a few deep inhales and exhales here, centering your mind, centering your body, stretching out the upper back and spine whilst relaxing the hips and lower back. Slowly we're going to rise out of our child's pose, coming into 4-point kneeling on our hands and our knees. When you're ready, tuck the toes under, exhale, push the tailbone to the sky, downward facing dog. Hold here for several breaths, pushing the chest cavity towards the mat, stretching out the back of the legs, releasing tension from the calves, the hamstrings and the spine. Maybe to gain a little bit of extra mobility, you can pulse the chest up and down to get a deeper stretch in the upper body, in the shoulders, in the back. Relaxing the body, keeping the spine nice and long. Take your gaze ahead and hop up to the top of the mat on your next inhale, landing with your feet mat width apart in yogic squat, hips coming down towards the mat. Take your hands in a prayer position at heart center, using your elbows to push the legs apart. Gaze is ahead, spine is nice and tall. Focus on opening up those hips and inner thighs. Maybe sway from side to side to gain a little bit of extra mobility. Take your hands now onto your ankles and begin to push the tailbone up towards the sky with the crown of the head coming down towards the mat. When you make your way into this straddle pose, I'd like you to look behind you, between your legs, allowing the head and neck to feel loose. Keep your spine nice and long here, belly pressing towards the thighs as much as possible. On your next inhale, come up onto your fingertips and walk your feet in towards one another into the center. Exhale, fold. Then inhale, rise slowly up to standing. Hold here for a breath, center yourself, take your gaze ahead, spine's nice and tall. On your next inhale, let's tuck that right leg into the chest, lifting it up, find your balance. Then exhale, step back into crescent lunge, arms come up to the sky. Gaze is ahead, focusing on our drishti point. Spine is tall and long, pelvis is tucked under, engaging through the hips and the core. Exhale, take your hands to heart center, and then when you're ready, twist round to the left side, resting the right elbow on the left knee. You can hold here, taking your gaze up to the sky, twisting through the spine. Or if you'd like to advance, as I will in a moment, you can take a bind, wrapping the right arm underneath the left leg, left hand reaches behind the back, looking over the left shoulder, clasping the hands together. Hold here, find that balance, find that drishti focus point. Bring the hands back together in our prayer position and untwist back into our crescent lunge. Exhale here and then move round into our warrior two. Hips come square, arms come down beside us. Take a deep inhale, then exhale, right hand to right thigh, left arm overhead, come into our peaceful warrior pose, gaze to the sky. Then inhale, straighten the front leg, take your left hand behind the back, reaching for the right hip, right arm comes overhead and begin to lean so that the right torso becomes in line with the hips. Hold here, engaging the core to keep you upright. Maybe even taking a mudra, connecting the right index finger with the right thumb. Turn the chest almost so that it's facing up to the sky to get that optimum stretch. Inhale, rise back up. Then bring the left arm back to center, and this time wrap it underneath the left leg. Right arm comes behind your back, and let's take another bind, this time binding to the left leg. Gaze is up to the sky again. Unbind and lift back up to standing. Arms come out into our T-shaped position, then bring the left hand down to the mat. Right hand comes up to the sky. Gaze to the sky, coming into our triangle pose. Hips are square, core is engaged here, making sure the shoulders are stacked on top of one another. Right hand now comes down to the mat and twisting so that you're facing the top of your mat. Walk the left foot slightly back, and then when you're ready, we're going to lift that left leg, bringing the foot up in line with the hip. We're going to take our half moon pose, so we're going to twist the right foot and hips so that they're facing over towards the right side, body comes so that it's facing to the right side. Then bring the right hand to the sky, taking our half moon. Gaze to the sky if possible. Option to advance and grab hold of that right foot in our sugarcane pose, bringing that foot as close towards our upper body as possible. To challenge your balance even further, as I'll show in a minute, maybe even lift the left hand up off the mat, placing it on the shin, holding on that left leg entirely. Hold here for a few moments. Find that balance, find that drishti and focus point. Then return the right hand down to the mat, square off the hips. Then lift back up slowly into our standing posture. Well done. Take a few breaths to center yourself. Then let's repeat that on the other side. This time lift the left leg up off the mat. Inhale here. Find that balance, that drishti focus point. Then exhale, step back into our crescent lunge, arms come up to the sky. Hold here for a few moments, spine is nice and tall. Bring the hands over heart center in a prayer position. Once you meet me here, we're going to twist over so that the left elbow this time meets the right knee. Gaze is up to the sky, twisting through the spine. If you can and you want to, you can take that left arm underneath that left leg and meet the right hand behind the back. Taking that bind, keeping the gaze over the right shoulder. Then return back to our twisted prayer pose in our crescent lunge and lift back into standard crescent lunge. Take an inhale here, then exhale, twist round into our warrior two. Left heel comes down to the mat. Hips are square, arms down beside us. Exhale, we're going to push back into our peaceful warrior. Right arm comes overhead this time. Inhale, return to warrior two, extend that right leg, right arm comes behind the back, left arm straight overhead and begin to fold, making a straight line from our hips to our left fingertips. Maybe even taking a mudra as with before, connecting the left index with the left thumb. Hold here for a few breaths, find that balance. Inhale, rise up, and let's take that bind to that right leg. So right arm comes underneath, left arm behind the back, gaze is up to the sky. Make sure here that you're opening up the chest, lifting the chest up towards the sky, stretching out the shoulders. Hold here for a moment, keep that balance, keep that center, that drishti. Unbind from that leg and return back to center, and then let's take our triangle pose now. Right hand comes down to the mat, left hand comes up to the sky. Shoulders are stacked on top of one another, hips are square, legs are in line with one another. Take a breath or two here, making sure that you're keeping the spine nice and straight, nice and long, crown of the head pointing in front of you. Bring the left hand slowly down to the mat, square off the hips to the top of the mat. Hold here in our pyramid pose. Then walk the right foot back slightly and lift the left foot up off the mat. When you find your balance here, you can stack the hips and bring your left hand back up to the sky in that T shape. Gaze is up to the sky once you find that balance. Make sure here that your entire body is this time facing towards that left side, opening the heart center. If you'd like to advance in this pose, you can take our sugarcane posture, grabbing that left foot this time. Or to further advance from our sugarcane, you could balance entirely on that right foot, lifting the right hand up to the shin. Hold for a few breaths here. Release the foot and then bring that left hand down to the mat and slowly return back to our standing posture. Well done. When you meet me here, we're going to lift up onto our tiptoes. Once you've found balance, keep your gaze ahead. We're slowly going to lower onto our heels so that our hips come down and rest on the heels. If this is comfortable for you, maybe part the knees out slightly so you're getting a little stretch in the hips. If this is too much, place your hands onto the mat and stay on your tiptoes so that you can still get that stretch in the foot. If you are upright, perhaps you'd like to take a mudra, or even advance as I'm going to show in a moment, by grabbing each foot and drawing the forehead down to the mat, taking a fold here. Hold for a few breaths. Deep inhales through the nose and exhales through the mouth. Keep that balance. Rise up to a neutral position, then join the knees back together and make your way up into a forward fold. On your next inhale, stand all the way back up into our mountain pose. Now we're going to step that right foot to the back of the mat and pivot so that we're facing the right side of the mat. Slowly slide your legs as far apart as possible, toes pointing forward, hands come down to the mat for support. We're taking our transverse splits here, opening up the inner thighs and hips. Make sure that you're not bringing your hips all the way down to the mat. I mean, if you can, that's wonderful, but what we're focusing on is making sure that our hips are in line with our legs so that we're getting that optimum stretch. Hold here for a few deep breaths. Slowly bring your weight forward and lower your belly down to the mat. Bend your legs out into a 90-degree angle, coming into our frog pose. Knees here are in line with the hips and also the ankles. We're going to hold here for several moments, focusing on pushing our hips down towards the mat and opening up the inner thighs. You can stay up on your hands for a deeper stretch, or come down onto your forearms, or even bring your forehead and chest down to the mat, whatever feels good for you. Hold here and take those deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Come up onto your hands and begin to walk your knees into one another. When you meet me here, come down onto your sit bones. And for our final stretch, we're going to take a straddle pose. Extend your legs out to the corners of your mat. Inhale once you meet me here and sit up nice and tall. Spine's nice and long, crown of the head comes up to the sky. Then exhale, and if you can, come down onto your forearms or just reach your hands out in front of you. Taking a deep fold here to open up the inner thighs and hips. Make sure that you're bending from the hips and not the lower back, and that you're not rounding through the upper back. Now make your way back to neutral and place your hands on your hips. Take your upper body forwards and we're going to sweep our body over to one leg and then over to the other, taking a semicircle-like motion. Each time you come down through center, try and bring that chest a little lower, getting a deep active stretch in the hips. Do this a few times, guiding your movement with breath. Making sure that you're not using your hands on the floor, so this is nice and active. You're using strength as well as flexibility in your hips. When you feel ready, return to center, keeping your hands on your hips, and begin to bring your chest all the way down to the mat or as far down as possible. Hold for a few deep breaths here, and if you'd like to go further, you can even reach for your ankles coming into our pancake fold. Hold for just a few moments. Then begin to sit up when you're ready and come back into our seated easy pose in the center of your mat to end our practice. Take your hands into your lap and we're going to just take a few grounding breaths just to round off the flow. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth as always. Once you've taken a few deep breaths like this, join your hands over heart center in a prayer position and bow down to yourself, thanking yourself for this practice. Join me in saying Namaste, just to round off the flow. Namaste everyone, and thank you for joining me.